The memory of last night clung to me like a cold shadow. Even now, hours later, I could feel the echo of that office cafeteria. Bright and buzzing, but somehow suffocating. Her coworker, so loud, so certain, had sliced through our evening like a knife. He mocked me, my job, even my presence, calling me a dead weight in front of her colleagues. My wife had been silent the entire time, her eyes fixed on her plate, neither defending nor acknowledging me. The silence was heavier than the insult itself. I replayed it over and over on the drive home, the streetlights blurring into long lines of frustration and shame. It wasn't just what he said, it was what she didn't do. My mind wavered between anger and self-doubt. Was I too soft? Too invisible? I had always thought we were partners in everything. But that night, it felt like I was standing alone in the open, exposed and unprotected. The kitchen smelled faintly of coffee as I poured myself a cup the next morning. She moved around quietly, humming a tune I hadn't heard her sing in years. I studied her, noting the subtle lines on her face, the way her hand brushed against the counter as if rehearsing, a gesture I couldn't yet understand. I was waiting for an apology, for reassurance, for her to acknowledge what happened. But instead, she acted with a calmness I wasn't prepared for. She made breakfast, setting the table with a quiet deliberation that felt oddly intentional. There was no lecture, no dramatic confrontation, no attempt to embarrass me or the coworker in return. Just routine, precise, almost ceremonious. I watched her, tense, trying to read the meaning behind the motions. Then she slid a note across the counter. It was simple. One line: some people reveal themselves. Others, we let teach us patience. I stared at it, my anger and shame twisting into confusion, then a slow recognition. She hadn't ignored me because she didn't care. She had ignored the insult in the moment to ensure the real consequence landed elsewhere. She hadn't humiliated me publicly in response, but she had ensured that, quietly, control shifted. By lunchtime, the coworker's influence had visibly waned. His jokes lost their bite. Colleagues who had laughed now looked uncertain, aware of an invisible recalibration I couldn't yet name. The lesson wasn't immediate. I spent the morning reflecting, replaying small gestures from our past that I had dismissed. The time she had corrected a mistake at work on my behalf. The time she had defended my ideas subtly in front of friends. The way she always anticipated tensions before they erupted. Her silence last night had been strategic, and now I understood the depth of her restraint. I realized something else. I had been complicit in my own invisibility. I had allowed minor humiliations to accumulate, excusing them as trivial, never confronting, never asserting myself in ways that mattered. Seeing her act quietly, with purpose, I felt a mixture of admiration and a new sense of urgency. I needed to reclaim some dignity, not by spectacle, but by measured presence, by careful assertion. By mid-afternoon, our home felt different, though nothing had been explicitly said. There was a weight to her glance, a quiet acknowledgement that the balance had shifted. The coworker's shadow over us seemed diminished, not because of confrontation, but because the subtle framework of authority had been quietly realigned. We didn't discuss last night. We didn't need to. There was a mutual understanding, unspoken yet palpable, that something fundamental had changed. I sensed it in the way she moved through the house, in the way our shared space felt recalibrated. My respect for her deepened, yes, but more than that. My respect for myself began to resurface. By evening, I no longer felt like a spectator to my own life. The humiliation hadn't vanished, but its sting had softened. I recognized the power of restraint, the efficacy of patience, and the subtle art of influence that doesn't rely on volume or spectacle. I knew now that a marriage could shift without dramatic gestures, that dignity could be reclaimed quietly, deliberately, and with lasting effect. And yet, as I watched her prepare dinner, her movements calm, deliberate, and precise. A quiet unease lingered. We had been altered, our marriage subtly realigned, but the imperfection remained. There were unspoken rules now, new boundaries, and a recognition that human fragility could not be fully erased. I didn't feel triumphant, only aware. The change wasn't loud or celebrated. It was quiet, controlled, and irreversible. Our marriage had survived the storm, not because of confrontation, but because of quiet authority, deliberate patience, and the acknowledgement that power could be exercised subtly, with consequence, without fanfare. And in that quiet understanding, I finally began to see myself, and her more clearly than ever before.